Hi, welcome to Canine Connections, Episode 3, Training Part 2. I'm Liz Jeffress, Executive Director from Bay Path Humane Society.
And I'm Beth McLeod, Director of Training and Behavior. And also with us today is our trusty sidekick, Percy.
So today we wanted to start off by talking about types of training. There's several different types of training that I'm going to let Beth speak to, but I just wanted to reiterate at Bay Path, the one we subscribe exclusively to is positive reinforcement. And again, while there are other types out there, we have unfortunately seen some of the detrimental effects in certain cases. Now, again,
I taught Percy that.
But basically, the bottom line is knowing the right training for your dog is key.
You know, and we did talk about this in our last episode where we talked about finding a trainer. But there are different schools of thought when it comes to training. There's correction-based training, and punishment is used there. And we've talked about balance trainers. Also, punishment is used there. And I will be the first person to say punishment works. But the fallout can be huge, and it's no different than how we are with humans, right? I'm probably one of the people who is like the end of the spanking generation, I think we could call ourselves. And, so I was in the got spanked, washed mouth out with soap, got the wooden spoon, all those fun things. And yeah, were they effective? Sure. Did they have fallout? Yes. It changed a relationship. So it's the same with the dogs. And actually, for punishment to really be effective, it has to be delivered swiftly and hard enough that it's going to make an immediate impact. When people say punishment works, you have to look at, does it? Because a lot of times people will come in and say, I use an e-collar with my dogs, and that works really well. Well, it might suppress the behavior, but it hasn't modified the behavior. If you take that e-collar out of the equation, we're out of luck. So for us,
can I just jump in? Because I think you always say at the shelter, you always say to us, like, to your point, it can suppress behavior, but the words that always get to me is you say, we want to change their emotional response to something, and you're not going to do that.
No.
You're not going to change it for the better. They're never going to lose that sense of whatever the fear was. They're never going to feel better about the thing usually it's fear that you're punishing. Like,
yes.
It's not going to help them overcome a fear and feel better about something scary.
Right. Exactly.
And that resonates with me, who is not a trainer. So thank you.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so what we are looking to do is have always come from a place of, compassion and train humanely. So we do use positive reinforcement. Hi, how are you? Because the fallout that we have seen from punishment is huge. I mean, we're seeing it all the time coming into the shelter with dogs who are surrendered, and we tried this, we tried that, and we either have to undo a lot of what was done, or that's a dog that we aren't able to help at that point, depending on where we're at the shelter. So I'm going to use my cheat sheet today just to make sure I don't leave anything out. The training that we do is, as we said, positive reinforcement. But we do something specifically called clicker or marker training. And in that, what we're doing, and we'll talk about this more when we get to our little training segment at the end, but we're setting up a communication between us and the dog. Again, nonverbal. Don't speak any particular language. Yes, they learn words through association, right? But we need to figure out a way to communicate the dog. And so being able to mark and then reinforce behaviors lets us say to the dog, yes, that's it, right there. That's what you're getting reinforced for. A lot of times we'll use a verbal marker, And a lot of times we'll use a clicker, depending on, you'll see in this training segment, I will not use a clicker just because of where my hands are going to be. If I clicked, I'd be right next to Percy's ear. Dogs who are extremely noise shy, we're not going to use a clicker. We know what that noise sounds like. It can be a little jarring for dogs who have noise sensitivity. I know he's like, you clicked, where's my cookie?
I have a deaf dog, so obviously we don't use the clicker with
Yeah,
our
so in
hand
that
signals.
sense, we wouldn't use a verbal marker either. We would use, like a thumbs up or a little flash of a light or whatever. So now I'm going to pass it back to you, and we're going to head to our next segment.
I just wanted to add one quick thing, because I think, again, you're a trainer, and it's so second nature to have a clicker and all this. And we get a lot of feedback at the shelter, like, oh, am I going to have to carry around a rack of lamb in my pocket for the rest of my life to get the dog to do what I ask? And it really is amazing, because again, it's just about creating the association. And Percy, for instance, we've come into this studio a couple times now. Percy's a friendly dog to begin with, but Beth has really racked up some points with Percy. Like, you could see Percy's not looking at me because I'm not the treat lady, but Beth isn't just flinging treats in his face. And I don't even know if you've given him a couple, but I mean, the main thing is he already associates her with something awesome. So that's why he's orienting over there. Whether she had treats or not, he'd be there at this point, because you've racked up the bonus points.
One of the things that I want to point out, just because Percy happens to be doing it right now, is dogs who are trained this way, they know there's reinforcement available, and they start to understand that their behavior has consequences, right? So Percy is over here very nicely doing everything that he can to open that cookie jar. You can see him, he's looking, and then he's not sure, and then he's like pawing me, and then he was hitting the water bottle, and he's sitting, and then he's lying down. So, I mean, to me, I love that. I love that a dog is thinking, what can I possibly do to earn reinforcement, right?
Yeah, beautiful.
Nice.
Okay, now we're going to talk about training session best practices. We're all mammals, right? So I think about myself and how I learn. Bay Path is so tiny for anyone who's been there, so I have to work from home or in my car sometimes, at Dunkin' Donuts, at the library, at Starbucks. And I'm actually one of those, I love working in controlled chaos, but other people can't. And where you learn and how you learn and how long you're learning for, it all matters. And same thing with dogs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And have Beth talk about how you set the scene to help these guys learn.
Yeah, so before we talk about that, what I want to talk about a little bit is how we actually get behavior. So in this kind of training, there's a number of ways that I can get Percy to a place where I can reinforce something, right? So one of the things I can do is capture behavior, and that is just the dog offers a behavior, and I can mark and reward that. So even I do not walk around with a clicker attached to me all day long. I will say I most always have food tucked into some pocket. But if I, for example, am teaching Percy a settle, then when I see Percy naturally settling, I can say, yes. And then I can reinforce that behavior, right? Just if I'm walking by and he happens to be laying near the sink, I can just reinforce that.
And that's what we tell adopters, right? When they adopt, a lot of these dogs don't know anything when they're coming. So we just say, reinforce anything good. They look at you. Reinforce it. Make everything coming towards you good, you know? And
exactly.
So it's a great jump off point.
Right. So the next way that which is in this way is typical of how people get behaviors, right? We do something called luring. So we have a cookie in our hand, and we are going to bring the dog into the position that we want to reinforce, right? We do not push down on the dog if we're looking for a sit or any of this, just for the same reason that if I want to teach Liz something, I'm not going to grab her arm and move her hand around, right? It's just not comfortable for us. So if we can lure a behavior, we can easily bring the dog into the position, and then we have something that we can mark and reinforce, right? the key is that after the first couple of times of getting that dog into the position, now we're not learning anymore. Those cookies are not coming out right away, right? But we're still going to reinforce that behavior. The third way is something that's a little more nebulous. It's called shaping. And I think in our next segment, our next episode,
Yeah.
we'll do a little session on shaping because it's a little harder to describe than.
Yeah, let's not have all our fun.
Let's keep our fun at a minimum
ease in.
here. Yes. So you want to just understand, like, how can we get this behavior? You know, if I wanted to teach Percy to sit up, you know, I could have this cookie and come up here. Oops, sorry, Percy, a little crumb fell on him. Come up here. So I could teach that, right? So those first couple, I'm using the cookie. So some other things to talk about, though, with best practices are that most dogs will learn best, unlike you in controlled chaos. Most dogs will learn best when they can concentrate, and that means not a lot of distractions. So when you're first teaching something, you might want to teach it in the kitchen where it's quiet, or in the family room where it's quiet, before you take it to the soccer game.
Right.
Right?
But if you stick it in the quiet environment, they will be able to matriculate to the soccer field.
Yes, exactly. And you know, and then we start to add in things like distance and distraction and duration. But and we may have talked about this in the last. No, we didn't. I know we didn't. Sorry. Dogs make associations very quickly. You know, something happens when they see a man with a hat. All of a sudden, men with hats are scary, right? They're very, very quick to judge. But what they don't do as well is generalize. So that means, like, if I'm teaching you how to do something, I'm going to teach you how to make a souffle. Not that I really remember how to do that, but
not that I'd want to be taught how to make a souffle.
But if I teach that at my house, if you go home, you're like, yeah, okay, I know how to do this. It doesn't matter. With dogs, sometimes it can be very different. Once you change that environment, very, very different situation for them. Then they're looking, it's why when you think you have taught your dog something and you go someplace and you're like, I don't understand, I taught my dog how to sit. Well, yeah, you did. You taught your dog how to sit in the kitchen where it's quiet, not a lot going on, right? Yeah. But not at Tractor Supply, not at Lowe's, not like at the soccer game.
A lot of times when people come back to visit with their dogs they've adopted, and they're in the parking lot and they're trying to get them to, like, sit and be calm, and I'm just like, we always say, like, it's not going to happen here. Too much stimulation.
Yes,
they
too much stimulation.
Focus.
Exactly. So, you know, so you want to teach your behaviors in different locations as the dog gets more and more successful. The other thing, too, is training sessions. Every dog, just like every person, has a different level at where they're comfortable doing training. So when I train, especially new behaviors for my dogs, who are trained and have been training all their lives, what I'll do is I actually will set a timer. You know, I set a timer for 90 seconds. So that I'm going to do that many repetitions, right? And then I have some play added into that. And then I set it for another 90 seconds or 2 minutes or 30 seconds, whatever it is. Training does not have to be, I have to find an hour to train, right? You know, you can do 10 2-minute training sessions in the course of a day. So all this helps. You know, to set the dog up for success and to keep them at a level where they're constantly learning versus experiencing frustration.
Absolutely. Next, we're going to talk about behaviors that matter, and we have 5 key behaviors that, again, Beth is going to speak to, and one we're going to show you today with our buddy Percy. But again, I just want to talk about, like, from the shelter perspective, from the non-trainer perspective. I've worked with Beth for over a decade, helping our volunteers and fosters, but largely our adopters, post-adoption, help their dogs in the home. And it's so amazing how, you know, in so many cases, these behaviors are very manageable. These behavior challenges are very manageable by teaching these behaviors that matter. And I always just say that, and basically they help manage. And I know we'll talk about this throughout our shows, but anyone who tells you they can fix everything with a dog, like run screaming for the hills, because there's a lot of stuff you can't fix, but you can manage. There's some stuff you can, but a lot of it is management and is work, but it can really go a long way. So.
Right. Yeah. So I actually call these behaviors 5 to survive. Because I find that, when I was thinking about putting a list together, and this was years ago that I did this, I thought, what are the behaviors that will really help, one, reduce frustration? Are you helping yourself there? Look, a buffet. See, now if we had
Jackpot.
trained Leave It, we would be all set there.
Trainer error.
So I thought about the behaviors that I would reduce frustration for owners and would help the dogs be successful, right? Yeah. Once they were in a home, and to help them move through the human world. So the first, one of the most important behaviors, I think, is a recall. It's a save your life behavior. You really want a solid, when I say this, or when you hear this whistle, I need you to come. No, I don't care if there are a fleet of elephants walking down the street. I need you to come to me because something is happening, right? So it's in our house, we have that recall. And then there's other times where I don't care. If I open the back door and I say, come on guys, let's go. I don't really care if you come or not. Yeah. If you want to come in, it's just basically do you want to come in? Whatever. But that recall is the thing that will save your dogs. Yeah. Wait is another one that's really important. So we use that all the time. I use it before sending my dogs out. I have a dog who's very prey-driven. She loves to eat the bunnies. So what I have in her is a nice wait. When I open the back door, I can ring a little bell for the bunnies and send them on their way. And then she's safe, the bunnies are safe, everybody's happy. I use it if I dropped a glass, right? And it hit the floor and broke everywhere. I can say to my dogs, wait, it's kind of like a freeze.
Which is very helpful if you have a dog that resource guards.
Yes, exactly.
From getting into trouble.
Yeah. Hey, you're coming back? So that I find is a very helpful behavior. The one we're going to teach today, which is Leave It. Nice, Percy.
Beautiful. Classy. Very classy.
Hi, come on up. Leave It, and also Drop It. Yeah. Those two, I kind of teach them hand in hand. They are, to me, two very different behaviors. That Drop It is you have something in your mouth. I want you to take it out of your mouth. As opposed to Leave It, which is we're walking down the street and there is, and this actually happened to me recently, like a dead snake in the middle of the road. And I don't want my dogs to eat that. They will eat it. That is to them like oh my God, there's a buffet right in the middle of the road, right? I just want to be able to say Leave It and the dog to turn their attention away from that, right? Let's see, so recall, wait, Leave It, Drop It, loose leash walking. We all want to be able to walk our dogs through the world, and whether or not you walk a lot, you want to be able to walk into the vets or walk into the pet store or walk into your mother-in-law's. I don't know, do you really? But we want to be able to take our dogs through the world without our dogs not thinking we're just an anchor at the end. Right. We want our dogs to be engaged with us. We are not talking heel position, right? And the last one is settle, and for me, settle means you're going to just chill next to me. Especially for high arousal dogs, we need them to have an off switch, right? Just like kids, just like us.
Perfect.
Come on, my
Now we're going to share another Bay Path success story with you about a dog named Addison. And as you'll see in this video, she came in with some challenges, but what it was is she was a really smart dog in an overcrowded shelter in Texas, and we were able to harness her incredible skills through our training, some nose work, our wonderful foster program, and find a happy ending for her. So enjoy.
This girl right here, a plea came out on, and just is not showing well on the eval kennel, and so you can tell that she's going to end up on a youth list. But when you go to the kennel, she stares at you like, don't even think about opening that kennel door. But when I opened the kennel door and then got the leash on her, she came out and has been a gem. This is this young lady. What a love monster. She's 180-8888. There's something special about having 4 8s. She's got an amazing poker hand. 5 8s in one hand. That is a full house, folks. Not, excuse me, 5 of a kind, y'all. She got 5 of a kind. She's a 2-year-old unspayed female. Calling her a shepherd mix. She's got something in her. It's kind of hard to tell. She's awfully small. I don't know if she's a shepherd, but she's got something.
I've been waiting all my life for someone like you, like you. I would watch the days go by, wasted and blue. I was out of use. Now every day, every night, every moment with you, I'm walking on air. And every day, every way, I feel I can't lose. I wanna shout it out, ain't no limit. I wanna shout it up to the world. You got me all worked up, got me spinning. I'm crazy for love, crazy for love, crazy for crazy for love. Crazy for love. Whenever lost, whenever down, you know what to do, to do. There's no mountain I won't climb, be right by your side, right by your side. Now every day, every night, every moment with you, I'm walking on air. And every day, every way, I feel I can't lose. I wanna shout it out, ain't no limit. I wanna shout it out to the world. You got me all worked up, got me spinning. I'm crazy for love, crazy for love, crazy for
Okay, so we're going to work with Percy on leave it. So leave it, again, our definition is, or my definition is, there is something, I don't want you to have it, I can give you the cue to leave it, and you will turn away from it, right? And that brings me to another quick thing. We're going to talk about cues for a second. Because dogs do not speak English, they're nonverbal, or any other language. I don't put cues on most behaviors. There are a few behaviors that I do, but for most behaviors, I don't introduce a verbal cue until the dog is pretty reliably understanding the behavior. So to teach leave it, what we're going to do is we're going to have a cookie in this hand. I'm going to close my hand. Percy can smell this cookie, and he's going to explore my hand. And the second he turns his attention away from the cookie, I'm going to click and reinforce from the other hand. He's not getting this cookie, okay? So here we go. And as long as he's not biting my hand or really mugging me or, so that little backup away from the cookie is what I was marking right there. So if I'm doing this without a clicker, yes. Yes. And what you'll see is pretty soon, he'll mug, yes, he'll mug less and less on this. He's very persistent though. Yes. Yes. Good boy. Excellent. Yes. Yes. Good. So I'm going to show you step 2 of this. So I would not move on to step 2 at this point with Percy, but I want to show it to you so you guys can practice it at home. Liz's going to be my helper.
All right.
So what we're going to do is we're going to have Percy on a leash. Come here, Percy. Where's your little doodle? Here we go. Now make sure I don't. All right, come on down. So what I'm going to do is.
Do I stand up?
Yep, you're going to put cookies on the floor.
Okay.
And I'm going to have cookies. Did I give you cookies? Yeah. So, Percy's going to help himself. Come on, let's go. So you're going to put the cookies on the floor.
Just one?
Hold on one second. And you want to make sure that this is, you know where the end of your leash is, okay? Because we don't want Percy to get these cookies.
Okay.
All right? So you're just going to show Percy that you're putting those cookies on the floor.
Like right here?
Yep. He'll see them. Trust me. So we're just going to stand and wait. And the minute he backs off, good boy. I'm going to do that.
Just keep putting them down?
Yep. You don't even have to put those down again. He knows that they're there. So as soon as I feel a little slack on the leash, good boy. Excellent. Yes, nice job. So what he's really learning is it's more reinforcing for him to leave that pile of stuff. And once I get to this point, this is where I start putting a cue on. So as soon as he turns, leave it, and then I mark and reinforce. Okay, well, I guess that wraps it up for another episode of Canine Connections.